Item number 8, Ms. Husking.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2008-151, Child and Family Resource Time Extension, be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Brush.
Thank you, Mayor Strain, members of council. This is a request by the property owners of the Child and Family Resource site, which is located at the northwest corner of Golf Links and 7th Street, to have an extension for their planned office building. This was approved by City Council sometime ago, back in April of 2007. It was rezoned from neighborhood commercial at that time to office professional. And the project consists of about a 5,000 to 7,000 square foot office building that would be located right behind the Vista de las Montañas, or Casa de las Montañas, residential assisted living facility. And they are asking for an extension. When the rezone was approved, there were a couple of conditions that were attached to that rezone. One of them was that the height would be limited to 1 story, and the applicable condition is that a building permit would have to be issued within 18 months of the approval and construction begun. And the condition was placed on the rezone by City Council, by the city, in order to protect the neighborhood and to try to ensure that the development that took place was what the neighborhood was told, which was the Child and Family Resource facility. Now, their construction is dependent on funding from the Department of Economic Security, and that agency has delayed the funding for the Sierra Vista area. And Child and Family still owns the property. They still have plans to develop the site. They still intend to develop the site. So staff feels it's reasonable to grant the requested extension of 18 months. And the developer, or the property owner to the south of the assisted living facility, has approved this, is in favor of having this happen. And Ms. Diane Robles, who is the Director of Facilities for Child and Family Resources, and Priscilla Whitlock Coates, who is the Regional Director for the entity, are both here tonight in case you have any questions.
Council, questions, comment?
Mr. Mayor, I just was wondering, from the people who are here tonight, if for some reason the project is not funded in the next 18 months, is there an unlimited number of extensions that the council can, or what would be the alternative?
Mayor Strain, Councilmember Husking, there would be no limit. Council can continue to extend this at your discretion as many times as you'd like.
Okay.
Anything else? All in favor? It's unanimous. Item number 9, Mrs. Doctor.
Mr. Mayor, I move that Resolution 2008-152, Vista Montañas preliminary plat be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Brush.
Thank you again, Mayor Strain and members of council. This is a request by Shepco LLC, who was the applicant of the Vista Montañas subdivision, to approve a preliminary subdivision plat. It consists of 68 lots, and the site is located at the southeast corner of the intersection of Avenida Cochise and Buffalo Soldier. Gas City is located in this area, and the SAIC building is located in this area. Subdivision site includes this entire vacant property, with the exception of the corner property, which is separately owned and is actually owned by the Cochise Motorsports entity that you see out on Wilcox Drive, and they do have plans to develop that site in the near future. The property consists of 14.2 acres. The zoning is multifamily residential, and a total of 68 residential lots are proposed. They range in size from about 4,700 to nearly 11,000 square feet in size, and the average square footage range is around 6,000 square feet per lot. The property was rezoned in January of 2007 from general commercial to multifamily residential, and there were several conditions attached to that. The lots have to be a minimum of 4,500 square feet in size, with 1 single-family residence per lot, and the tier of lots adjacent to the Summit Meadows subdivision would have to be 1 story in height. If the development is constructed with private streets, which is what is being proposed by the developer, they have to be built to city standards for road construction, which means the profile of the streets, the construction materials, the compaction, the curbs and gutters, etc., have to meet city standards. And a third condition was that an access easement was to be provided to the Cochise Motorsports site coming in off Avenida Cochise, so that they didn't need separate access from that street or from Buffalo Soldier. The determination as to whether the subdivision will be gated hasn't been made by the developer yet. They're contemplating that in a couple of different ways. The subdivision plat itself shows the access coming in off Avenida Cochise through here. There is a small cul-de-sac area right here which would have to be gated, and then the primary access into the remainder of the subdivision would also have to be gated. Due to the nature of that and the difficulty with having two gates, the developer is contemplating not gating it, but still leaving the streets as private streets. All the property owners within 500 feet were notified as per code, and we did not receive any comments. And the Planning and Zoning Commission heard this item on September 16th, and discussion at that time largely centered around the location of the access drive into the site. And a number of points were raised and discussed by staff and the applicant. Again, the access location comes in at this point right here, which lines up and is a break in the center median with the access across the street to the north into the existing Gas City and SAIC site that I mentioned earlier. That access location was planned sometime back. Actually, prior to the annexation of this development, that access was determined as being an appropriate access for both properties on both the north and the south sides of the street. It is, however, located about 350 feet from the intersection with Buffalo Soldier Trail, which does not meet the preferred code requirement of 500 feet. 500 feet would put the access at the extreme edge of the property up in this vicinity, and that's considered problematic for a number of reasons. Number one, it would create an offset from the access located here going into the Gas City, which is likely to produce conflicts in terms of turning movements. Secondly, there is a raised median in the Avenida Cochise alignment that's currently in place, and it has a left turn drive onto Crestview Road and a westbound left turn drive into this proposed site. How we would alter that would be very difficult. In fact, the median would probably have to be removed, which would result in the necessity of a suicide lane and more turning conflicts. And lastly, a deceleration lane is being considered by city staff coming from Buffalo Soldier and into the site. It's probably a wash as to whether that would be beneficial or not, but it is something staff is looking at and would consider in the improvement plans with the final plat, which would follow this preliminary plat. So Planning and Zoning discussed those various issues and heard from the developer and staff, and after discussion of that and a few other issues having to do with the site, they did recommend approval to the Mayor and City Council by a vote of 4-2. And Mr. Blaine Reilly, who is the engineer for the project, is here. Should you have any questions, he can also address this access issue in more detail.